Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum, dear students. Our today's session focuses on spatial diffusion by gravity. I hope and expect by the end of this session you would be able to understand the model. Well, my dear students, the model of diffusion of innovations was first introduced by Trudgill in Sociolinguistics. In fact, when we talk of social innovations, including linguistic innovations, it has been observed or noticed that they hop between large population centers in a spatially discontinuous manner. So, if you think of the whole globe, of all the states and countries and societies, any innovation, whether it is any other social innovation or language innovation, it was observed that it would just hop at some places, at some centers that would not be connected to each other, here and there at certain places. At its simplest, however, the gravity model predicts that the larger the town or the country is, the sooner an innovation is likely to show up there. What does it mean? As the name of the model tells, it deals with the idea of gravity. And it is believed that in whichsoever community the number of people is more, there would be more gravitational force. The more the number of people, the more the gravitational force. The more the gravitational force, the possibilities of change are greater. The gravity model was originally used to describe the diffusion of non-linguistic innovations, and actually it was brought into linguistics and sociolinguistics later on. Sociolinguists and economists had observed that innovations such as, for example, the adoption of a new brand of cars or the use of new types of seeds among farmers, that would happen irregularly. They would not be able to notice a pattern in that. And then they found that they jumped from cities with the largest populations, gradually moved on to the smaller cities and then to the smaller towns and then to the villages. What does it mean? What does it mean that it would start with any change, be it any kind of linguistic or non-linguistic change? It would start from a big city, then smaller cities, then smaller towns, and then villages. And why it is so? It means that even if a small town was close to the starting point of an innovation, the people living there might be relatively late in adopting that. So, for example, city A is a big city. A linguistic or a non-linguistic innovation takes place there. Now, around this city A, there are different other cities, big cities, small cities, towns, and villages. Now, even if a small town that is very physically, geographically very close to this city A, according to this model, the change would not first shift from city A to this particular small village. It would rather emerge first in another big city that may be, at a distance from this particular city that we are talking about. So, the gravity that the model refers to is the pull or attraction exerted by the sheer number of people in a particular locale or place. Because a big city would have a bigger number of people, so it would have a more gravitational pull and it would start there. Another city that is, far off, again, it would hop there. Why? Because, again, there is more gravitational pull as compared to a smaller village. To get a rough idea of this, how does it operate, I think we can think of some technological innovation in that context. For example, the spread of Hummer vehicles in Pennsylvania, there were different experiments that were made. One way of looking at it is to make a chart where you can list how many Hummer leaderships are in the phone book, how many are being sold there in what ways. Now, if as the sociolinguists and, other researchers looked at the statistics, what they found was the first dealerships opened in Philadelphia and Pittsburgh. And again, it's very interesting that both of these, they are large cities. So this is a pattern we could predict for the gravity model. As a rule, sociolinguists would like the principles accounting for long or larger, spheres where, variation occurs and change takes place. So it's a heartening principle in the sense that it applies to, it is already not only applies to, it is also proved through its application in other areas of life, for example, economics. Peter Trudgill was the first sociolinguist who saw the potential actually of applying this idea from other fields to linguistics, and more particularly in sociolinguistics. He examined the spread of innovation in language, and he looked at the phonological variations in Swedish and looked at the spread of uvular r in Europe. And actually he argued that these variables were better explained in terms of population gravity than the wave model. So, at different times, different models have been presented in sociolinguistics that account for the process of language contact and language change.